Hello, welcome to another Friday webinar from the Proactive Health Collective of Keene. There's more of
Yes.
us coming. We are
Yeah,
all
we're all just kind of like getting here and
Yeah.
we're
settling
looking
in.
forward to this. There's Matt, there's Dr. Jean, and Teresa is
Morning.
there. We've seen her. She's just
Yeah.
doing her
Happy
best.
Friday.
Step away. Happy Friday, everyone.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Who are we? We are the Proactive Health Collective of Keene. We love to get together at this point, the first and third Fridays of the month. And starting next month, the third Friday, we're going to be having guest panelists on.
Can't wait for that. That's going to be
So
great.
that's going to be fun. It's going to mix it up a little bit. We're going to get some different
Yeah.
perspectives and certainly going to spur some conversation, I would think.
I thought it would be nice too if instead of, this is kind of between us, but anybody can listen in, instead of putting that person sort of on the spot, so they're sort of in the grilled seat the whole time, you know, for them to present like kind of the topic area, but then they're like one of us and they get to participate as part of the panel instead of having it all be like, okay, we're all going to interview you and you're in the hot seat. Yeah. Yeah.
Let it flow. We'll just let it flow.
It always does, doesn't it? We've done stuff together, you and I, Jean, you know, beyond this, and you've been on my radio show and stuff, and time just flies when intelligent, inquisitive minds get going. It just goes.
Yeah.
And Becky, you have a bit of the gift of the gab there, I would say, which is a nice
I do.
thing.
Did you kiss the Blarney Stone?
The what? The Blarney Stone?
Blarney Stone?
What's really funny is I'm not that talkative in my private life. Like I go home and I don't say that much. It's like I get totally talked out. Just want to be quiet. Yeah.
So our topic today, who's going to introduce our topic?
Allison?
Alice?
Sure. So yeah, last week we talked about addiction and kind of we all chimed in about sort of making changes and how the struggles that you can have and different ways to make it easier to create healthy habits instead of destructive habits. And I thought maybe feeding off of that, we talked today about toxins. There's certainly a lot of toxins in our physical environment and within our bodies from the get-go these days. So it's important to, there's going to be a lot of stuff to chime in about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big deal on these days, like toxins for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's, you know, I tell every single person that I meet with, you know, because people are interested in nutrition, and nutrition is amazing and it can really help the body do everything, including detoxifying. But sometimes when you're trying to work on rehabilitating an organ, if there's so much toxicity there, it's like pouring, you know, water into a bucket with holes in the bottom of it. It's really hard to get there. So it has a huge effect on, you know, people doing the right things, I think is what you know, people are like, I'm eating right, I'm doing the right things, but I just can't seem to get past this barrier. So.
Yeah. In the Chinese medical perspective, when there's deficiency, we want to build. So we want to kind of build resources, but sometimes there's deficiency because there's excess. And I think if you translate that into Western medical language, the excess is like just accumulated toxins. And if you start building on top of that, it's not going to be as effective as if you drain out the excess first, and then you can go in and build after that.
Yeah, it's something very similar in chiropractic. You just take a look at the spine, and when there's misalignments and what we call subluxations, which you could just think of as a lack of connection in the body, and you know, possible impact globally because of that. That stores toxins. The body doesn't have connection there. It's not able to detox. So as soon as you start to get more coherence through the whole system so that the spine can align again, bonus, it starts to detox. And it really has to do that first, very similarly.
Yeah.
Kind of like a chicken and an egg thing, you know? Like it's almost like when an organ starts to break down, it tends to be a good breeding ground for pathogens. You know, as we become weak and dying tissue, we become a good source of food. And then when we look at that, we say, oh, there's a virus here. That the virus caused this breakdown, not necessarily. And so, like with toxicity and with nerve function, or energy, like in acupuncture and blocking of energy, or nutrition, they beget on each other, so the more toxicity you have, the more dysfunction you have. The more dysfunction you have in any of those areas, the more toxicity you have, because everything starts to cascade. And the cool thing is the body is made to handle all this stuff. It just gets overwhelmed. I think we're just in an overwhelming environment.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about that for a moment. Let's talk about what comprises our toxic load today that didn't used to exist. Let's talk about, let's throw out there, what are some of our toxins that are invisible to people, right? We don't know that when we microwave with plastic that we're getting xenoestrogens. We don't know, we don't know when we're using our cell phone that we're getting electromagnetic radiation that might be harmful to us. These are things that are part of our modern world. And I think you would all agree with me, when you can, like Dr. Jean was saying, our bodies were meant to deal with these things, but it mounts up, it mounts up, it mounts up. And if you don't deal with it, you're going to end up with that straw that breaks the camel's back. And the health is going to capsize. I mean, it's just going to go down.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Gene.
Just really quick on, it's amazing to me actually, and a lot of people that come in, they have like a thyroid, they have their hypothyroid diagnosed, like just about everybody, my God. And I always ask the question, even before I meet with somebody that's on a telehealth call or something like that. It's like, well, what are some possible things that could be contributing to this situation? And I'll ask, do you have any silver amalgam fillings? Oh yeah, I got a mouthful. And even though they've been to 1 million people and done all the things that they're supposed to do from their doctor, they're not addressing this seemingly unknown. It's amazing to me that everybody doesn't know about that, but surprisingly, a lot of people don't.
Yeah. And some people have had their dental amalgams removed improperly, and it has been super toxic. So you want to make sure that you are, who I'd love to have on as a panelist? There's a holistically minded practicing dentist in Greenfield, Mass. And
oh, cool.
Yeah, he reached out to me, and I know a couple of my clients are seeing him. And so you have to be super careful. Don't just let anybody do that. They need to have some vapor extraction. So let me give you an example. I have a friend at church, and she's also a customer, and we've known each other. She's a massage therapist, so she's all into natural health, but she had a tooth crack, and right beside it is a mercury filling. And she can't get this dealt with for another few weeks. They just kind of said it might just fall out. You're going to have a lot of pain or whatever. But she said, I'm afraid if it falls out, the filling will fall. What if that mercury filling falls out and I swallow it? I said, that's not a problem. You're not going to absorb that mercury through your GI system. The worst thing is that it just keeps vaporizing. So I got her on glutathione. Glutathione is a big mercury detox thing. So actually just gave her a bottle, because she's a great friend. And I was just like, look, you need to take this, make sure you're detoxing this while this is in your mouth and possibly giving off vapors. But if you swallow that filling, it's just going to come out in the toilet and it's not going to get into your system.
It's almost the best case scenario at that point. Just like pass it right out of the body. You might say that's expressing health. The body's something it doesn't need.
Yeah, another thing, the mercury, people get the fillings out, whatever. Oh yeah, I got them out years ago, but they never necessarily got it out of the tissues of their body. That's a big thing people don't understand. Like, well, I did get the fillings out and I still haven't gotten better. Why? Well, because this stuff is still lodged in your tissues.
Right, because now you're putting a drill to it, so you're just basically vaporizing all of the mercury. I think the holistic dentists, they'll use like a suction, and they have a really specific protocol to do it, to remove them properly.
Yeah, there's a number of different things. That'd be great to have that dentist come on and talk about that, because there are a number of different things that can be done. Some things people do, I think, that are
Just,
they're trying to do the right thing, but it actually backfires. Like I've heard dams can actually cause more collection of
Yeah.
them. You know?
So mercury
So-
fillings, what are some other areas that people are getting toxins in their life they might not know about?
You know,
Not-
every winter,
Mm.
we find an increase in petroleum solvents, which are, you know, like
Hmm.
Vaseline is the quintessential petroleum solvent, but it's in your Jergens and all your hand creams and skin products and personal care products. So we see a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, skin's the biggest organ of the whole body. You know, we forget that. It's really sensitive.
yeah.
And you have your shampoo and like body wash products in the shower, and then your skin, when the water's hot, your pores are going to open larger. So you're going to absorb that stuff in even more.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and perfume's another one that, you know, all those things have smells that are chemicals, and you're breathing that in the shower, along with the chlorine that might be there too.
Right.
But but even like our fabric softeners and our, you know, like we get our clothes smelling, oh, it smells, you know,
Oh,
whatever it is,
I
Bounty
hate that
Fresh.
Like an ocean
Yeah, I
breeze.
can't. Yeah, it's so it's really coming at us at, it's not one thing, but it's the cumulative effect of all these things that I think is like the body is amazing, and how it's amazing what people can do. You know, if you see how people treat themselves for years, like smoking a pack a day for 30 years and they're still alive, it's amazing what the body can overcome. But you know, this is a multifaceted assault really on you know.
Yeah, thinking about the chlorine, and then think about fluoride and think about bromine. They're all halides. This is why one of the reasons we're seeing so much thyroid disease. These things squat, they sit in your tissues where iodine is supposed to be. And we're iodine deficient if we're not supplementing. So yeah, I'm just surprised, you know, well, tells us why so many people are sick, and a lot of people are sick. A lot.
Yeah.
Of people
And just through a chiropractic lens, I mean, thyroid specific, the spine gets challenged in the area where the nerves innervate the thyroid. That's probably number one spot that we see people have spinal degeneration.
Mhm.
Number one.
That's
Yeah.
another one of those chicken egg things too. I tell people that.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if you're not getting, you know, proper nerve supply, the thyroid's not going to function right. It may become more toxic. It may not absorb nutrition as it should. But when the organ is under stress, you get what's called the viscerosomatic reflex. When the organ's under stress, the area tightens up in response to it. And so it is it's like a cycle that goes on. So
Yeah.
you know, so it's like, well, what do I do? Well, you do both actually, you know. you handle the spine and you make sure that that's supported, so it's contributing the best that it can to all the processes, every process really that occurs, and then the organ so that it can, you know, run metabolism and do the things that it needs to do, and not stress the spine out.
Yeah. It's a four press.
Yeah. Now, this is his dentist. I found his email. Hello, Rebecca. I was made aware of your service by a special patient today. I trust she knows quite well when she finds a key component to achieving one's wellness. She highly recommended you. Thank you.
All right.
You're at some distance, but I do have a good number of patients who come from your area. If you have any cards you could share, they would be quite welcome. So maybe we could get our cards together and I'll send a little packet down to him.
Yeah. Great.
I do hope we have the pleasure to meet sometime soon, and I could probably use a dental checkup. But his name is Mark Wisniewski, past president and current chair of the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology, New England
Oh, nice.
Wellness, yeah, in Greenfield, Mass. So
Yeah. That'd be great to talk with him.
be cool.
Yeah, I'd love to have him on.
I'll reach out to him.
You know what I learned my last dentist visit? I hadn't heard this until recently, that you're supposed to let the fluoride toothpaste sit in your mouth. You're not even supposed to rinse it out and spit it out. It just seems
Like the
a
fluoride
lot.
treatments, you know, what they used to get. I used to get at the dentist. They were like really tart, kind of fruit flavor.
You can pick
things
the
like
flavor. Yeah.
It was red flavor or, you know, orange flavor. I think I remember.
Yeah.
Whatever that
Little
was.
buzzer.
Yeah.
You know,
Felt like
it's
sand.
interesting.
It was like
see.
sand.
I at one point asked my dentist, gosh, this was years ago. I mean, years ago. And I think I still lived in Georgia. So years ago. And I did ask them, this is when I was getting on the bandwagon of watching out, like, you know, watching to make sure that I didn't have sodium lauryl, what SLS, sodium lithoral
Yeah.
sulfite in
Or
your toothpaste and shampoos and all that stuff. Because it's a degreaser and it's like the same thing you use to put on a car engine to degrease your car engine, like weird. And so I was asking them, I was like, what do you use? You know, what do you think about, you know, using essential oils like peppermint oil and almond oil, or extract or something like that? And they were like, yeah, you know, technically you could just brush your teeth with water and it's fine.
Mhm.
You know, like just brush your teeth. I was like, so why do you not tell everybody that? Like, why are we spending all this money on expensive and toxic toothpastes,
Yeah.
you know, and you're just giving it out for free? So I found that so fascinating. Maybe it was in South Carolina now.
You know what else?
But either way.
Great, it's just an oak twig. Just break off an oak twig. Seriously, there's
Yeah.
enzymes in that bark and they help to break all that down. You can scrub the teeth. I mean, there's so many things. Like what we've been on the planet for a long time. Like we have
That's
some
really-
great modern.
That's really
You know-
convenient. Like, okay, it's time to brush my teeth. I got to go out and find an oak twig. No.
No, we're surrounded by pines over here. You know, what are we
I was
gonna
gonna
do?
say, so long as you don't live in a pine barrens, you're doing pretty good. Ooh,
Do you
that's
see
a-
that? Or I think it's like backwards, but this is
No,
the
we
one.
can see
Okay, we're talking about toothpaste, so let me just tell you. I started
We're
using
dentists.
a Tom's charcoal toothpaste about 6 months ago. And my daughter said, her friend said, she read that this can wear off the enamel of your teeth. I have really healthy teeth. So minimal cavities ever in my life, and I just haven't had dental issues. One dentist said to me, I'll never make any money on you. So, you know, but,
It's a good thing.
but what did I want to say? I noticed like last month, I felt like real sensitivity on my teeth for cold and stuff like that. Like, and I really think it was that charcoal toothpaste. So, and it was Tom's. I mean, so it didn't have other junk in it. So I went back to this, the Armare, which is an Ayurvedic herbal toothpaste, fluoride-free, non-GMO, no colors, dyes, or bleaches, no parabens, gluten-free, no artificial sweeteners, cruelty-free, vegan. Also, you know, when people are on homeopathic remedies, you're not supposed to have mint. So there's no mint. So it's compatible with that. But I like some sort of I've brushed my teeth with just water. And yes, it works. You have to brush harder. But I like something like this that has some, what do they call that? Not like pumice stone, but some sort of something
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, like an abrasion element. I think,
yeah,
what do
an
they call
abrasion
that?
element.
Is it
Yeah.
chalk or something like that?
It has combines the naturally cleansing and potently invigorating properties of neem and pilu with 22 other barks, roots, plants, and flowers that have been esteemed for centuries by Ayurvedic specialists, that's Indian medicine, for their separate and combined efficiency in maintaining superior dental hygiene.
What was the name of that brand?
It's called Aromere, AUROME with an accent, RE, Ayurvedic herbal toothpaste.
Yeah, you can get it at the co-op. We use
Yep.
it going back and forth.
Absolutely.
I
I
think
actually
Jean,
sell it up here because when I buy it online, you don't just buy one, you buy a packet of them, and people just sometimes they see that I do that with deodorant or whatever, but I do have it here.
Yeah, it's good to have that alongside, especially when people are getting into homeopathics. Those little things can just accelerate. I mean, I like things on the quick. I don't know about anybody else.
Mhm. You don't want to go out and search for an oak twig every morning. Is that what you're saying?
Oh, well, you know, I think there's something to be said. Right. Modern convenience. And when you do a situation where you have to go outside every day, so like, let's say that, you know, I lived in a place off the grid for a prolonged period of time, as an 8-month stretch with an outhouse. And there were some days, especially on like a cold, sleeting morning, where going to the outhouse wasn't the favorite task. And I have to say though, that living like that, needing to go outside, so like to go outside to grab the oak twig, as an example, to scrub your teeth, there's just something that happens when we interact with nature on a cyclical daily basis like that I can't really describe. It's just, there's a health giving property that is created by engaging like that. So if you think about and sort of relate that to toxins and detox, right? So that's like a negative sort of survival value. It builds up. It is chicken or the egg thing, but we do know that if you address the toxicity, things get better, right? So versus like doing something that's more connective, such as going outside every day, needing to go outside every day to go to the stream to collect your water, or to go use the outhouse, or to get that oak twig to scrub your teeth, whatever it is, it creates something different.
Walk your dog.
It's just a special.
I mean, I had much better connection with the outdoors when I had a dog, because I didn't have a choice. You got to walk the dog, Now I don't have to walk a dog, and I can't be bothered. So,
Yeah.
Well, in my house, it was get out, turn the TV off, get out.
Get out.
That was
Get
it.
out.
And so,
Go play.
exactly.
It's like the grounding mats that we've talked about before. You have the positive ions in our body that are like the toxins, and then the negative ions, which the earth's did I get that right? Yeah. I think so. Negative ions are what the mats kind of emit.
yes.
And that's what you find in, in your thunderstorms and your oceans. And it just harmonizes with the body, a natural sort of detoxification that occurs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if we're getting further and further removed from the earth, which has many consequences, there are little things like that we can do to sort of reconnect ourselves, at least to that part of our physiology.
Yeah.
And it's interesting with the like how it shows up in the body can be very different, various ways. It can be symptom based, having hyperthyroidism. Also looking at the stream effect of that, and like what's going on with the adrenals, because the adrenals are, like above, basically the adrenals are affected, and it affects the thyroid. So you have like different processes and different organs that affect each other. And I'm sure Allison and Becky and Jean, you guys know the inner workings of nutrition and chi balancing for that. And when it shows up in the body and how we perceive it, I was actually asking my massage therapist this the other day. I was like, have you ever noticed like the different tones of muscles when people have different tensions in the body? So we work with physical, chemical, and emotional. And when you're working with more of an emotional tension in the body, the muscles feel like a rope. Like if you were to rub your fingers across your other fingers, like that, it feels like a rope, or imagine what a rope actually feels like, either braided or strings. It feels like a ropey feeling, like rigid and bumpy. That's like more of an emotional tension. And if you have more of a chemical tension, it's like a boggy feeling, like the muscles are tight, but it's a boggy feel, like it's like a squishy boggy. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's very interesting.
It feels like a memory foam.
Yeah, but it's tight, but it's still tight.
Yeah.
And we had a couple come in one time, and one person had huge emotional tension, like her whole body was completely emotional. Like I was like, just feeling your body, I could say that there's been a lot of emotional tension building over your lifetime. And she was like, yeah. And then the partner had a lot of chemical toxicity and was at one point in time fit, and didn't have any problems. And then all of a sudden she got really bloated. And I was like, and you have like a ton of chemical toxicity. And they kind of like looked at each other like, how do you know that? And I'm like, your body tells us everything. Like I can't tell you a specific story, but I can tell you what I feel. And that's how it shows up. And it's just so fascinating to help them. And once they got under care, the chemical girl told me, she's like, within, I think it was within a month or 2 months of care, she was like, I just got my period. I haven't had my period in like 4 years. And I was like, cool. And then like these things started to show up, like other things that were natural. And she was just like, what else is going to happen to me? She was like, all these things are coming back online. It's crazy, because the adjustment is part of, like, as we release nerve tension, the nerves start to flow, the detox process starts to happen, and things start to come online. I mean, I could go on, but like people have the craziest effects afterwards, after an adjustment sometimes, because their body is actually starting to work properly. So
Well,
shows up interesting.
Cool.
I think what would be cool, because You know, I think a lot of the audience might not understand how it is, that what you do translates to these processes, that these amazing things that are happening. So why don't we kind of go around and kind of describe how that would work? Like, I'm really interested in hearing from a Chinese medicine standpoint as well, because I know I had an acupuncturist in my office for years, and people would detox like crazy with acupuncture. So I'm interested in hearing a little bit about, the mechanisms of how these things work.
I think it's the same thing as network spinal and just simply moving, just creating space and creating more blood flow. And you're kind of, by inserting a needle into the skin, you're kind of telling the nervous system, pay attention over here. And then you're going to dilate the blood vessels. You're going to get a fresh supply of blood. The body's going to realize, it's going to send signals more clearly. So if there's a problem, it'll realize, oh, we're in pain, we need enkephalins or whatnot. So it's just going to speed up the process by just making it faster and more open, which sounds just like, what Dr. Tisa was saying about just getting the tension to release and to kind of move on through. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So translation, basically, by restoring energy, which is really, in both cases, they're talking about the same thing, right? Communication, connection. You're getting the body to do its processes more effectively.
Right. Yeah. And you can do like more manual therapies like cupping and gua sha. That's when you can really address these toxins that have been stuck in the muscles. And when you do that, you'll see the level of toxicity. So it creates bruises on the body. So you have all this gunk that's been kind of lodged in those muscles. And in a very toxic person, it'll be like this deep purple kind of color after the cups have been sitting for a while. Or in athletes when just things are just stuck because of the physical use of things. And if someone was very like healthy and clean, ate very clean and had a very clean lifestyle, you wouldn't actually see that. It would be a very light color.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, so you're bringing up all that gunk and getting it back into the lymph and then circulating it out.
Yeah.
But the body's amazing in the ways that it can do that.
It
We have the same amount of energy in the, how do I say this? So, you just have areas where there's more energy and areas where there's less energy. And if you just kind of like fine tune it with the needles, you're kind of like you're like a little, just getting it all moving. So it's all moving smoothly. And then everything kind of shifts and the toxins can get flown out. And yeah.
Acupuncture being really complementary to what we do, there's a certain point where it becomes appropriate to start integrating disciplines. Oftentimes, I think it's not necessarily recommended right off the bat. So if acupuncture is something that really speaks to you, it's a really good idea to like just, at least from what I've seen from our lens. So as an example, like go with that, you know what I mean? And go with that for a little while and then start integrating other disciplines too, so that your system really learns the language, that it learns that language of balancing, or in our case, that it learns the language of ease, really, because we're concerned with the same thing, and really upgrading the nervous system so that it has a whole new frame of reference so that it doesn't go back into those disconnected patterns in the first place. So it's a way of creating a new level. And I've seen, and even just in myself, engaging in both network spinal and acupuncture, it can be a rocket ship to health, which is one to be respected for sure, because I've also seen it be like way too much for some people at certain times. So it kind of just depends, like what's your baseline and what toxic load are you starting with? And then really like, what's your overall goal? What do you want more of in your life? Because when we start moving in that direction, we're definitely looking at like, so if I had, more vitality, more clarity, more, better immune response, more like just a whole new level of health and enjoyment in life, like what would I have more of? And then when you start aligning with that, it's like sky's the limit. And then just like put in whatever piece is going to fuel you to get there.
Yeah.
You say that acupuncture, we're retraining the nervous system. So you're kind of setting the body up to work in a certain way. And then your body starts to understand it and do that by default. And I feel like our different modalities are just different types of training. Like and correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe your training's almost like you're working more with like the physical sort of how your posture, how to hold where your body holds its tension, whereas acupuncture is more on where the energy circulates. You could even use herbs and nutrients as like a train because they all have different organ systems that they work on and sort of like directions and energetic properties of those. So in a way, you really are training your body to do that.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, we're primarily concerned with the spinal cord. What is the spinal cord doing? Where's the mechanical cord tension that's decreasing communication through the body? And then how do we inform the nervous system to give it a new perspective so it doesn't do that anymore? So yeah, it's kind of like two really wonderful paths up the same mountain, and they're very close.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And Becky, I'm sure you, with all your knowledge, you have lots of different avenues to turn to for helping people.
Yeah, if we talk about detox, we have, if we're talking about the halides, the fluoride, the chlorine, the bromine, and all of that kind of thing, iodine is a super important mineral for that. I know I always talk about glutathione, I always will, but glutathione is huge for liver. It's involved in both phase 1 and phase 2 liver detoxification. And so, and it's super important for synthetic estrogens, for metals, so aluminum, cadmium, mercury, lead, all of those things. So those are some of the big things we have. Herbs that are big for detox. And I have like an herbal detox formula. I can't tell you what it's in it. I'll have to just go to my website and look. But there are certain herbs that are really good. And a lot of times people will do like a spring. It's a great time to do, say, an herbal kind of detox. People will ask me about, kits, these big, expensive kits that go on, for a couple of months and doing a detox. And I'm not saying that those things can't be useful, but because I use things that are just naturally detoxifying with everybody for whatever reason, I don't tend to, go to those. I don't think I've ever really recommended one to somebody.
But was maybe Dr. Manatisha can help me out. Was it B.J. Palmer? Didn't he say something in effect of when we can marry our intellect with the innate intelligence of the body, that would be the perfect union of healthcare or something like that? I know I butchered that, but have you guys ever seen that quote?
I'm not calling that quote, but that sounds like something he would say. He was really looking at how to bridge the gap. Right.
And he was he was the, for those of you who don't know, he was like what he would be credited with being developer of the chiropractic profession, really, his father having invented it, but BJ really kind of taking the ball and running with it. But one of the things that we do in our office is we use kinesiology, which is a way to tap into the inner knowing of the body. And it uses like the sort of idea of acupuncture energy and instead of a pulse, really, we're just using a muscle test. And one of the neat things when it comes to toxicity is being able to identify which particular toxins you're dealing with. Because again, if we don't know where our source might be coming from, it's harder to figure it out. You could say to somebody, okay, go home and change out everything in your house right now because you're toxic. You have this, the signs of toxicity. Or if you could say, hey, you know what, aluminum is showing up. Do you happen to use an antiperspirant? Oh, yeah, I do. Boom. You have a quick way to cut off the source of that toxin right away. And so identifying these things, I think, I've found is really helpful for people to then be able to look at and make changes in their lives. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, no matter any of us, whatever modalities and things we use, if people go out and don't take care of the vessel, it's going to catch up with them. And so awareness of what's happening and then how to translate that into how do I make some changes in what I'm doing? Because you know what, if you continue to eat processed and packaged foods and use toxic materials and breathe in toxic candles and do all that stuff and, not be aware of the radiation that like Becky was talking about and the 5G that's coming, all these things are, something that we have to become aware of, not only individually, but collectively. to be like, oh my God, they're bringing 5G into Keen. Is that really good? Is that great for us? Or could
They're not.
there be
Yeah.
some consequences? Oh, they're not. So awesome,
That got shot down. Go Keen.
Not
there
just
you go.
Keene, not just
Wow, some
Keene,
good news.
not just Keene, the whole entire state of New Hampshire. They
Really?
just had a big thing
Wow.
where they had
Wow.
only one person came out in favor, and it was a person in the industry. And so, yeah, I mean, that's really exciting.
Wow,
that
that's
it
some good
really-
news there.
I don't
Yeah.
think 5G is going to be coming to us. So
That's
Can be
great.
proud to be from that naysayer state of New Hampshire. No way.
Yeah. Live for
Yeah.
your die.
Love
Yeah.
it.
So yeah, and the other aspect of that is, in using kinesiology, you can basically ask the body, hey, what do you think of this? There's stress on the thyroid. We know it's mercury. Is a homeopathic going to be better for you? How about a chelator? What about a whole food supplement? Does that support
Yeah.
the body best? It's really nice to be able to hone in on what's going to be the best, because there's a lot of great things out there. It's not
Yeah.
that one is
And
better
Gene-
than the other. It's what's better for me at this moment right now.
And you
it's
have a way
not
of
a
even,
one size fits all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
no, I was just asking Gene, you have a way of actually like narrowing that down in basically in terms of like that person's own authentic nature, like what they need most, right?
Right. Because it's the information coming from them.
Yeah.
You're marrying intellect. Like I know there's 5 products that are good for this particular thing that showed up. However, I don't know which one is going to be totally best for you, but
Right.
your body knows which one is best for you. And so it's nice to be able to just tap into that, what we call in the chiropractic profession, that innate wisdom, that innate knowing.
Yeah.
Your body has a nerve system. It does so many amazing things. One of the things it does is it picks up on information in the environment, and it does that in a way in vibration, right? When you walk in the room, somebody's angry, you're sensing, you're feeling, you're connecting to that vibration. Animals typically are pretty good at picking up on these things because they haven't, clouded them so much, children, but we all have that experience. And so, not only do toxins have a vibration to them, so do, supplements and homeopathics.
Yeah.
Your nerve system can pick up and read that. And, it's one of the reasons why having your nerve system in better shape is better for you, because, we're using kinesiology as a way to read this, but everybody has the ability, I believe, to read it themselves if they were in tune enough with themselves. And so the more in tune you become with yourself, and again, this is, paying attention to your energy and your tension and that kind of stuff that you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
The more you have access to your innate knowings. I really believe that we could, if we were really connected, we'd just be like, is this supplement, you know what, it's not, or you know what, yes. And I think that, so kinesiology for me is a bridge to that utopian where we've gotten to that point. And Matt and Tisha, I know, can help you move the needle in that direction.
And that's the kind of thing, like, I don't practice that. I totally value kinesiology. I think it's huge. I don't do it because I'm not trained in it. And I think there's a level of subjectivity to that if you don't really know what you're doing. So
Absolutely.
I had somebody come to me and said she had kinesiology done by 4 different people and it all said different things. I know the way you do it, Dr. Jean, is accurate and works. I know that because I know we share in the care of people and I know how valuable it is. In fact, somebody came in to me last few months and she sees you, and it was so cool because she showed me, what you identified, and it was similar to what I did through conversation and just getting her history. And we got that collaboration, and that's always reassuring to people, that 2 different modalities saw the same things.
Yeah, first of all, there are a lot of bad muscle testers out there. I can just tell you from personal experience, not that they're not good intention, but really, I would say, it's a skill like anything else. And there are people that aren't that skilled at it. But also there's systems. Kinesiology is a tool which is applied in different systems, just like chiropractic is. There's many different systems or ways to apply it. And so one analysis in chiropractic might say, you know what, we feel like the atlas, the top bone here, is the priority thing that, you know, we go after first. That's our, you know, there's a whole philosophy, and they have, you know, a lot of evidence and documentation behind it. But then there might be another one that says, you know what, we concentrate and focus on the base. That's the real problem. And so two people can get two different perspectives of what is really going on. And the same thing with kinesiology. It's being used in different systems where one person does it in a different way, asks different questions, and therefore arrives at different answers, as maybe the adrenals are what is causing stress in the thyroid versus the thyroid being the problem. So, you know, you have to kind of put that in context with how people use tools. Yes, people can be bad at it just like anything, but they can also be using different systems which would elicit different answers to different questions.
That is a great explanation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like acupuncture. If you go to different acupuncturists, you'll most likely get a different diagnosis, but they could all be very effective treatments. It's different.
It's kind of universal, really, in a lot of professions, and, you know, that type of thing.
Yeah, and honing in skill set. You know, it's like one of the things that we talk about. So as the nervous system gets more and more freedom, has more and more ease, people start to interpret their environment differently. They don't get triggered as much. They don't feel as stuck or as if things seem like they're just not working. In fact, they start to see momentum and they start to change some things. And so one of the things that we'll say as a guiding light at that point is that we don't see the world as it is. We see it as we are. Because the truth is that what we have and how we've imprinted our whole universe, we prejudice everything that we see and feel and think about. You know, that's a whole kind of another topic, that we think our thoughts are our own. But anyway, so that basically then we see it in a certain sort of like a clouded way, like we have a certain colored glasses on, so to speak. And as you get more and more coherent, as you get more and more clear, as you engage in more and more self-practices and you purify, especially in the mind, these things get more and more and more and more clear. And so it becomes this act of almost surrendering to a greater creativity, a greater knowing that comes with time. And, you know, going back to what you said, Jean, that, like, you know, all of us have the ability to do that if we're just really, like, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but like clear enough, right? If we could really tune into that. And so just know that something we build over time, and everyone can do that. I totally agree with you. I love that.
And don't think of it as like a here or there, but more as a continuum.
Yes.
And we don't know what the limit of that is. I think, you know, I don't know. He's thinking about like how much of the human brain we use, you know, from a science standpoint. What is it? 10% or something like 10%. I mean, you know, so who knows what the end of that limit is, and it's going to be a different limit for different people. But you're not standing still on it. You're either moving in one direction or the other, typically. Yeah. And so, you know, it's your opportunity to be pushing the needle that way, and, you know, and you know, paying attention and listening. It's like a skill. It's almost like, you know, when people lose their sight, their hearing becomes, they can pick up on everything. Like, oh, that was the plastic fork, or you know, like that was the knife. It wasn't the fork. You know, they pick up on everything, right? And so as we pay more attention to our body's signals, we're aware of things. You know, like it's almost like when you're clean and clear. If you never smoked a cigarette and you took a puff, you would immediately have a reaction to it, right? You would be super aware of how that your body doesn't like that. However, if you smoked, you know, a pack a day for 20 years, you'd suck that in and it wouldn't even bother you at all, you know? So as you get clearer, I think, not only from a physical standpoint, but from really a vibrational standpoint, like paying attention to the tone of things, even in relationships, like, you know, tone is pretty much everything, right? It's how it's delivered. Like, you know, that's fine, honey, or that's fine, you know, same thing, but a different tone, right? So
Yeah. Oh.
I agree with you on that. Like, just obviously being in the new experience that I am currently in of being pregnant, and understanding that, you know, whatever I experience, I know that my child is impacted, you know, in utero. And so having great, you know, understanding that detox is very important. I so appreciate you, Jean, and the work and the protocol that we did the year prior to me getting pregnant, because I I've had actually recently just had a few people call in and is like, my wife is pregnant, or I'm pregnant, I'm sicker than a dog. I know that I need chiropractic. And I was like, well, how's your nutrition? Like, have you detoxed? Are you taking your supplements? And they're like, well, no, because I can't keep anything, you know, and I was like, I'm just super grateful for between like getting the support and nutrition from Becky and doing the detox protocol from Eugene, like way back, you know, back over the last year, you know, I didn't experience that. And I'm very grateful because I'm like, they're like, oh, how's your nausea? How's your vomiting? How are your headaches and stuff? And I'm like, no, my first trimester, it was like, I'm pregnant, you know, it was so much easier. And I want to support people in that moving forward, because the call I got yesterday was, you know, my wife's really sick. She's got crazy vertigo. We know chiropractic care could help. And then he's like, do you also know, you know, nutrition and all this? I was like, I have a great person for everything. I know an herbalist. I know a supplementation practitioner. I got a great acupuncturist. And the guy calling for his wife was like, where have you been? So I'm like, we're right here in Keene. I was like, we've been here, but knowing what you need to do before, if you can take the proactive protocols and really set yourself up for success, I think is such a tremendous benefit. And people don't know, and it doesn't have to be pregnancy. It could be anything in our life, you know, just being proactive in general. I think one of the biggest toxins that we all talk about, and I'll have to say my child is probably already addicted to it, is sugar, because sugar is just in everything. It's so delicious. And I've never wanted more sugar in my life since I've gotten pregnant. So, but I've only gained baby weight. So I'm doing obviously something right.
Well, what's really kind of funny is talking about kinesiology and sugar. I had this lovely family a couple of years ago, and the kids are just, I mean, this is like a really, you know, kind of really good family where the parents are really into education. You know, they're totally into their kids, and the kids act like they're 10 years older than they are. You know, they're just really wonderful. But so we were talking about kinesiology, and we're standing out there. And so one of the kids is like, I don't know, she 8 or something like that. And she did it. She had me put my arm out, and she had me hold different things. And one of the things I held was sugar. When I held sugar, my strength went. It was so obvious.
Wow.
And yeah.
That's one of the classic ones we use when the parents bring their kids in, you know, they're like preteen or teen. As soon as they're able to do that, we do that with sugar. So you're a soccer player, you're a football player, you're looking to, you know, be strong. Here, try this. Oh man.
So explain that, because I'll bet you some of our participants do not know what you're talking about. So tell briefly about what is kinesiology, because, you know, we act like everybody knows what it is, but
yeah, I don't know if we have time in this segment to get into it.
That's another.
But you know, really, it is, again, like I was saying, the easiest way I can explain it to people is like, you know, a lot of people understand. I think at this point, acupuncture has been around for what is it, 5,000 years now?
2,500.
2,500?
5,000.
Oh,
Okay.
that's
about 25.
All right, good. I'm glad I got that clarification. So a while anyway.
Yeah.
But you know, you have energy channels in your body, and so when you're muscle testing, you're feeling, you're essentially feeling energy. And for me, I could use very light touch, mostly through my years of network training, which is, you know, as those of you who have experienced it, a very light touch versus a jarring of the system. But you can literally just by touching somebody feel their energy. And when something's disrupting the energy, you can feel that as well. It just feels like energetically wobbly is the best I can describe it. The body is just being challenged. The energy is being challenged. And so it no longer feels stable. And I don't know, you know, do you check pulses, Allison?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's this, I don't know, it's hard to describe what that feels. I'm not trained in checking pulses. My sister does that there's some other things that do that. But there's like it's almost like Tisha was talking about the chemical tone versus the emotional tone in the muscle. There's just a feel to it. And you can feel this pretty easily without any force, you know, without pushing, you can just actually just put your hand on somebody's arm and be like, yep, that's stable
Yes,
energy.
well,
When you come along to different points in the body that are under stress, like say the thyroid's under stress, and you just put a little, not even pressure, just touching it. There's what's called an ischemic response. The blood vessels at the very tip of the nerve endings are interrupted, and it just interrupts the energy. And in layman's terms, basically the body takes its focus and its attention to some other area, this area. And overall, it interrupts the energy. And so you can just feel, oh, it's like you're breaking the circuit there in this nerve net, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, and there's more. I would have to refer. Sometimes people, I say, well, first start with this quantum physics book, and then come back and we'll have this conversation, because there's a lot of science, a lot of quantum physics behind really what this is. And once you've done that, then it really opens up a wormhole of possibilities for you.
when I have people who practice this themselves, so what they'll do is they'll take something off the shelf, right?
Mhm.
And they hold it here and they see whether they've moved forward or back. And they'll do that themselves. And some of them they really seem to know what they're doing. And, I've even had a case where somebody nearly I had to move backwards because she nearly ran into me. It was so positive. So, yeah.
Could be. I mean, I guess I put it
on this, and it's called Super Brain Blast, and I went forward on it.
I love
I
that
mean,
one.
you need it.
It means it's good for me.
Good for you.
But
I think, absolutely. Like I was saying before, if we could tap into our own innate knowings, then that's really what we're talking about here. The challenge becomes, and again, this can happen from the practitioner or the person self-doing, is you have to be very in control of your mind, not to have bias.
Right.
And that's the key there as to your accuracy is your bias. So if you're trying as a person or a practitioner for some outcome that you want to happen, you'll achieve that outcome. And so that's again, that's where you get into the quantum physics of it a little bit, and that, brain plasticity, and, it's just a whole wormhole there we can get into. But you can, I think people can tap into that. People self-muscle test doing this kind of stuff. You just have to check yourself, I guess. And
Hey, this works because when I just stand up here, I don't go forward or back. Now, but lion's mane, which is great for the brain, I go forward. Super Brain Blast. I did chaga. Chaga, I just stood. I didn't go either way. So I don't know. It's at home.
Yeah. So like when I muscle test people, I don't tell them what I'm doing,
No.
so that they don't have bias.
Yeah,
in it.
they're not I know, subjectively. That's why I say I don't do it.
Yep.
I want to say a quick something about overwhelm, because there's so much information out there online. And if you start going down a path like something like Detox, and it's kind of scary because you feel like there's something wrong with me. My body's not on my own side because it's full of all these toxins. So you're kind of motivated to get all of this protocol together. And then you start kind of looking online and you're finding, oh, this helps for this, and this helps for this, and this is good for my liver. And I've been there. I used to work at Whole Foods in Santa Fe and in the herbs and supplement department. So I got everything I wanted for free. We could just test anything out. I brought all these supplements back to my family one Christmas, and they called me Supplement Santa. I was giving them multivitamins, everything. So and this is when I was in school for Chinese medicine, and so I was learning pathology every single day. And when you're doing that, you're thinking, oh no, I have that and I have this. And I got so overwhelmed. And at one point I must have had 20 different minerals and herbs and vitamins and Western herbs and Chinese herbs and liquid tinctures. And they were I was like, maybe I need this. And I'd take this day and this day. And I felt worse than I had ever felt in my life. I was just completely confusing my body. And I see that with patients quite frequently, where they start getting into their own health, and before they know it, they just kind of give up and they get a lot worse. So I think your mindset around it needs to be that it should be empowering. And I think it's important to work with somebody who can look in the lens, like one lens at a time. You know, like Matt was saying, maybe go do this recommendation from this one practitioner for a while, and then maybe this one.
Yeah.
But
I think the key also here is that you have, like, we all have the ability to heal ourselves, I would argue, right? And we can, by stretching and moving, change tension in our spine and our system. We have the power. In fact, when you're getting a network entrainment, what's happening is you're tapping into your body's own ability to unwind itself. So we have this ability, right? But it helps to have some facilitation, some guidance on this journey, this game plan, really, of where we can take your spine, not just haphazardly, like, yeah, I can release a little tension when I do that. Yeah, sure, everybody can do that. And everybody can read a little information, but they don't have the knowledge base that Becky has from working with people and what works for these different things, and to put that into the perspective. And you could, move energy just like Allison does, but in the way that she would put together the plan of what's happening, really, what's causing this, where do we see the disruption? Is it fire? Is it, your analysis of what's happening and how you take the tools and then use them in that way. And kinesiology is, again, the same thing. It's like, it's a tool within a system of how you take care of somebody and how you walk them through, okay, here's what we found, here's how we deal with it, here's the things that you can do at home to deal with that, to make changes, here's how we can eat better to then support our system. And it's putting that together in a plan of action for somebody, no matter what your thing is, whether you're taking them on a spinal journey, as Dr. Zabatelli do. It's really that knowledge, that wisdom of how to take your tool and use it is what makes a practitioner really a great resource for a person.
Yeah, and I want to just chirp up. I bought my daughter for Christmas an appointment with Allison, and my daughter is a professional dancer. She's very much into health and taking care of her health, and she's had acupuncture many times. So she was blown away by Allison's treatment. She was like, by the time I was done, I felt high. I just felt so good. And, she raved about you. There's so many more things I can say. But what I can say too is that you honed in on the liver, and Krista has what is considered the worst MTHFR defect, which is compound heterozygous. So what is the end result of that is that you don't make enough glutathione. So, but I've been nurturing her since she was in the womb with all of the nutrients and all of that kind of thing. And she does those things. But I just think that made so much sense to me, because you would say, yes, this is the thing. What happens when you don't make glutathione is you can't clear toxins. We go back to our original subject very well. And so you had recommended milk thistle. Milk thistle works by modestly raising glutathione. That's one of those really cool things. So it was really awesome to get your input. And she told me a lot more. And she was so totally impressed with you. She's like, every time I'm home, I'm going to see her. Yeah.
I loved it. She was a great patient.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things was that she was waking up between 1 and 3 a.m.
Yes. Right.
Okay. And then so I
It's
go down
classic
that
liver.
road. Yeah. That's lovely. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we're almost out of time here. Literally. So just real quick, we've talked about all of these amazing things, and then it's come up a number of times. Obviously, there's pregnancy in the group right now. We talked about sort of like the lineage, and right at the beginning, one of the things you said, Becky, was, sort of like where all the toxicity is coming from. And, we kind of look at our modern condition, and we couldn't talk about this without acknowledging the toxic load that we inherit through the generations and how that's been building up, especially on the East Coast, post-industrial revolution. I mean, it's really been stacking up. So it's more than just what's right here. There's a baseline of toxicity, the importance of cleaning out, thinking toward the next generation, and, really finding that lens, like you were talking about, Jean and Allison, and just, we always say that we're a broken mirror when it comes to treating ourselves. So we don't see the cracks, and that's what working with, a qualified professional really can do for you, is just help bridge those little gaps and make such a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I think we don't have time to get into it today, but we didn't really talk. We talked about like chemical toxins, but, our thoughts can be toxic. Emotions that we get stuck in can become toxic in different ways. So maybe, a topic for another time.
Well, you were talking about the vibrations with relationships, and I think of I just always have that image of Pigpen in the Peanuts, Charles Schultz, where wherever Pigpen is, there's this vibration of dirt coming off him.
Yeah.
And when you're around somebody who's really down or really angry or negative or something like that, it feels like that. You feel it. So another great topic for another time.
Awesome. Well, it sounds like we could wrap that into a nice discussion. So,
Cool.
Segue for next time.
thank you so much, everyone. I had a great time today, as usual.
That was really fun.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And
I
we'll be
always
back
learn so
in.
much. I always
We'll be
learn
back
so
in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Is it 2 weeks?
February 5th, I believe.
Third,
First and third. So I don't know if these months run five weeks
So
or something. But we
February
have to be
5th.
careful of that.
Yep, February
And
5th and
we're
February
going to be
19th.
having Sharon LaFlamme. Is she going to be with us on that one?
She'll be with us on the 19th, on the
Oh, and
13th,
then-
Friday.
Cool. Our special guest. Can't wait to see you, Sharon.
Yeah. And we'll tell you
Right.
guys a little bit about Sharon next time we meet so that you can know what to expect.
Yes.
All
A
right.
wonderful weekend.
So long,
Great.
everyone.
Fifth.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.